We are back again. COVID, cabal, threading the needle. We are threading the needle, ladies and gentlemen. Apologize for that minute delay there. I actually had everything ready to go, and then I realized I did not title the show. So that's what I was doing. I was titling the show for you guys, so you understand how we should be doing this. I got a question before we jump in. I want to see something. Is this light? Does this light make it worse or make it better? Let's turn it off. Is this better or worse? Is this better? I think it's a little worse. Let me know. Drop a comment in the chat. Is this better or worse? Should I add this light back? Should I add back just a little bit? Does it make me look like I'm glowing, like I have this halo? If you guys are here, drop a comment in the chat. J-Dog's here. Jose, you are ready to drop a comment in the chat. That's all that matters. I don't care if you're ready to go. Better with low light. Better with low light. So get rid of it. Maybe I only have one in. Maybe this one. Is that better? Is that better? Okay, so get rid of the light. Light's bad. We don't want the light. We don't want the light. We're agreeing. We're agreeing this is better. We're agreeing this is better. Man, I gotta get a fucking camera, man. This is trash. Trash. But look, I appreciate you troopers. You troopers. We're going to do Dark COVID Cabal in a second. What if we did Dark COVID Cabal? Which is me in a dark room with it's dark MAGA. It's dark MAGA. I'm going to have my black MAGA hat on in a dark room. Dark Pat. That's right. That's what we're talking about here. Dark COVID Cabal. Oh, shit. We're going to have to do this one of these days. We're going to have to do it. All right, guys. It's good to see you here. Friday evening. Let's have some fun here. Look, it's oh, you gotta be kidding. Look at my dad. He turns on the printer. Of course he prints something during my show. Isn't this crazy? So I gotta get out of here, guys. I gotta upgrade. No, Romeo, it is not because of my shirt, it's because of my aura. It's my aura that's shining right now. That's what you're seeing. That's what you're seeing. 1 second. I'm gonna tell him to stop printing downstairs. All right, look. We got some fun stuff today. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Civil War strategy, right? But we're also gonna talk mostly about a lot about the economic stuff and the indictment flow. We got a lot of big stuff happening, guys. It's a lot of winning. It's a lot of winning here. I think that people. Let me talk about the wine real quick. So this is a Pernod Vergelès 2015. Excellent year. Excellent bottle in general. I have to be honest, though. Got to be honest. Okay? So I used to sell this wine. It's my last bottle of this entire Burgundy producer. I loved it. I love this producer. And I love this vintage. And the wine is still very nice. I got to be honest. Whiffs of vinegar. Whiffs. It's still very good. Whiffs of vinegar. Tells me I waited too long. The only thing worse than waiting too long is that you could have waited even longer. So I'm happy I opened it. I'm happy I didn't save it. But it's a little frustrating because I think I had a year ago I still had one of these bottles. It was amazing. It was amazing. I think it's better. I think some of the whiffs of vinegar were when I first opened it, and I don't get it now. But man, nothing like a really good Burgundy. I'm a snob. I can't. What am I gonna say? You get the vinegar on the aftertaste, like a Marsala. That's not what's supposed to be happening. Oh well. So look, guys. Write a book on American history someday. I hope they write a book on accurate American history someday. No, history is an amazing topic, and I prefer it in the practical sense. I appreciate historians. It's a very difficult job. It's a very difficult job to really sort through the archives, figure out what actually has happened. I'm a synthesizer more than a researcher, so I'm good at taking a lot of other people's research and coming to a more and I guess you could argue that that's what anybody does, right? You have to be able to research and synthesize, but I think some people are more archivists. So like a lot of historians, that's their skill, right? Not sure it's me. But look, let's get to the show. Let's get to the show. We gotta bang this out in 30 minutes, all right? Parents coming home, we gotta bang this chick out in 30 minutes. When we finished the last show, I love the last show, by the way. All right, look, Jose, December 5th is my target date. I'm not officially announcing it, okay? And maybe if we're gonna have a pre-order, it'll probably be like Thanksgiving. It's not my I'm saying December 5th, but man, I still got stuff to do. First half of that book, part 1, knocked out. We're in final edits for it, but I got stuff to work on for part 2. And the book itself doesn't actually finish until the J6 reunion that's happening for me and the Fort Dix guys in early November. So, I have a few more pieces I have to finish putting together. Um, it's like the third quarter of the book has a lot of work to be done. The last quarter is solid. The first half is solid, but the third quarter has a lot of work to be done. So that's where I'm at, and I got a lot of things to do. But I'm up early every day working on it. So we're gonna get there. Ready to drop a comment and ready to pre-order. This is my man right here. This is my man Jose. We're not gonna deport you. Okay, we're not gonna deport you. You're staying. You are staying, Jose. No, I'm sure you're probably vintage American. You're probably 5 generations deep Texas. I love you, man. All right, look, we're let's let's roll it. Let's roll with this right now. Let's roll. So at the end of last show, we were doing the geopolitical chessboard, right? Very important to understand a lot of this stuff because this sort of tells you what the entire pieces of the puzzle are, right? It's the pieces of the puzzle. And why we have the strategy that we have. Economically, there's a lot going on though. And I'm going to be candid with you guys up front. What we talked about last show, that's my fucking wheelhouse. That's what I trained in. I understand it very, very well. I am still learning the financial stuff. The financial stuff is the hardest part. And that's one of the reasons why, I really like Tom Luongo's work because I think Tom Luongo's doing the hard work where a lot of people have, they can throw out very simplistic quips, but if you don't understand the bond markets, if you don't understand the interplay of all this stuff with the financial system and sovereign debt and bond markets, I don't think you have the real picture because at the end of the day, everything is very, very much connected to the money. Okay. But I think that there's a lot going on and I haven't checked up on Tom's stuff for a while, so I don't know what he's saying. I've been too busy. But what I'll say is this: a lot of the stuff that Trump is doing that we like because it's like MAGA's agenda and we like it for general reasons. There's also acute economic reasons, and I want to show you some of this stuff. And I think it was very interesting because it actually started to put together some things that I'd seen before, but then like I kind of buried, I forgot about. So China has been going through a very bad deflationary vortex, and this has been going on. We've heard this for a while, right? But see, I didn't understand this piece. So Unseen is saying here, China's in a major deflationary event. If not for tariffs, we would be importing the full force of that deflation into our country, and our economy would have collapsed. Europe and Japan are facing that deflation now. This is very interesting, and he follows on with this. Deflation, he's saying inflation was the last war. We better start worrying about the coming deflation more. The Fed needs a massive cut next week, at least 50 basis points. 100 to 200 would be better. Fire up that stimulus. Deflation is the next battle. Inflation was the last. We can't be worried about policies for the last battle. Trump's agenda is made to fight the new one. If done right, we will see a popping of the inflation bubble caused by the last fight and a slow reduction in prices in key sectors that will force other prices down while keeping employment high and wages strong so demand doesn't crater. Tariffs are a big part of the strategy to control the amount of deflation we import. Most people are still in the mindset that inflation is the beast to stay. And I'm going to add that with this, you also have the element of the how do I put this? Of deporting people is allowing the American labor market, like Americans, it's allowing them to not be pushed out of the workforce. So this is what I'm trying to get at here. The tariffs and the deportations, we wanted them anyway. We wanted them for structural reasons, and those were good reasons. Those were good enough reasons on their own. But what Trump also understood is that those th- that was required also in order to in an acute basis save the economy, because we need to reduce the number with especially with tech coming in like AI, right? All the stuff that's acutely happening with China, where things are going, we need to get surplus labor out of the population. So all these illegal immigrants that came in, and by the way, what did we see? We saw that Biden was bringing all these people in, and he was giving them loans to buy houses, which drove up the housing market. So nobody could afford houses. It's one of these things I've been saying, like, if you're getting deportations, like I talked to somebody, some random guy the other day, and it's one of those conversations like you meet somebody someplace and you're like, this guy shit lib, this guy shit lib. I don't know. Can he be my friend? He's shit lib, and you're kind of dancing around things, and you sort of suss it out. Well, I started to suss it out from him because there's a couple of reasons, but one of the things like he was talking about, he was like an actuary, right? And he was like, there's no, housing's always good bet. Housing's always going to be going up. And whenever I hear that stuff, I'm like, I get like whiffs of 2008 financial crisis. Like, just do the math for me. Like, put aside every other variable. What's the most important variable for housing prices? The most important variable is that people, like, there's people who need houses, right? It's contingent on a growing population. So if you're deporting millions of people when you have a replacement rate below fertility, then you're going to have decrease in housing. Like, I mean, even if you try to like segment it in terms of like, well, it's only this one type of housing, you can say, well, because obviously some neighborhoods are not going to be as impacted as others. Some neighborhoods may even continue to grow, right? But they're not going to grow a lot. And there's going to be overall, there's going to have to be a correction in the housing market because you have less people. If you have millions of people less every year, if by the end of Trump's term, there are 10 to 20 million less people in this country, you better believe the housing market is going to reflect that correction. You can't avoid that reality, right? So anyway, why do I say this kind of stuff? The labor aspect of this piece is really like, this is like a very, like, this is threading the needle economically because there's so many pressures. Everybody was saying, right, there's going to be this big economic collapse. And I think that it's an inevitable thing globally, right? It's an inevitable thing globally. But what we see Trump doing, Trump and Bessent, and also the foreign policy team, of course, because it's all connected, what you see them doing, and we've said it before, it is the least dirty shirt in the laundry strategy. They are recapitalizing the country using crypto, remonetizing the country, rather, the debt, dealing with the debt, with crypto, with the cuts to the government, right? With the tariffs, bringing in more revenue. We just seen this, right? The deficit shrunk. Everybody lied about it, right? Everybody lied. Thomas Massey lied. Deficit shrunk. So the budget deficit, I mean. So it's just not the same thing as cutting the budget. It's not a surplus, but the budget deficit shrunk, whereas they said it was going to increase. Okay. And we're talking about an order of magnitude difference. We're talking about a 10x difference in what they said it was going to happen. They said it was going to get like 10 times worse, and it got like 10% better. It's a very big difference. Okay. which is why the OMB doesn't even matter. Like, you listen to the office management budget, they just lie about shit all the time. So this is like the financial piece of the puzzle. And all of this stuff, all the MAGA agenda with the tariffs, like, the world economy is going down, and Trump is doing every single thing he can to make sure this country comes out on top. It's amazing, actually. It is, the more I see it, I'm like, it's sheer genius. Pulling all of the investment money back to the country, making America the best place to invest in. So when the entire world's going to shit, capital has to come here, using tariffs to block deflationary spirals from China's economy to come into the United States. Like, pulling investment from Europe and using the leverage that we have to force other countries to go along with these strategies to, you know, we're still the biggest market in the world. And we have all this untapped leverage that like, it's, we talked about it a little bit last week, but last show, but this was the trap that they made. They got everybody to parasite off the United States. And then Trump comes in and he says, all these channels are built in. And he says, we're just going to flip the flow now. We're going to pull all the power back. So really incredible stuff going on the economic front. And I'm going to do more research so I can help to explain this stuff even more and more to you guys. But this is a very significant piece of the puzzle, because if you don't have the money, you can't execute the plan. They want to bankrupt this country. That's what they want to do. And we keep cutting off their flows of money bit by bit. It is a vise around them. It's a siege. There's a lot more talks now between Trump and Putin. There's going to be a summit in Hungary over the end of the Ukraine war. And, this is such an important thing. And I'm just going to say this. And, I hope, like, if you're an Indian guy, I got some Indian friends and clients, Indian colleagues. Like, I don't have, like, I hate this stuff. I hate that we get pulled into these, like, pawn stuff where we try to say, we have individuals and we have big picture stuff, right? I'm Anglo ancestry. I'm criticizing the British, okay? So don't take any of this stuff personally. But there's no question, right, that they have used mass Indian migration, especially in the last 5 years, to try to, fuck up a lot of these countries. And I think a lot of the Indians who came earlier, they understand that. I mean, a lot of them left the country for a reason, right? These are obvious policies, obvious policies designed to, and you can still look at the British Empire connection with this, right? That's Tom's position. I think it's an interesting one. But the war in Ukraine, right? So you have the war in Ukraine. You probably have 2 million dead Ukrainians, and twice that number left the country. You don't even know what the population of Ukraine is, because they haven't done a census since the end of the Cold War. So officially it was like 38 million before the war started, but most people believe it was probably closer to 30 million. So you have a population of 30 million. 20% of that population is gone, dead or left. There's no labor force because the men are in the military. And so what do these fucking people do? They say, we need to bring in 8 million Indians. Actually, let's make that 10 million. They changed it like a few days later. We actually need 10 million Indians to come into the country. I mean, no offense, but, like, this is totally fucked up. It's fucked up by every single metric. It's like the biggest, it's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. You're going to take all the men from the country. You're going to make them fight a war. And you're going to wipe them out. And then you're going to give away the country to other people. I mean, like, I actually think it's probably one of the most evil things I have ever heard of in my entire life. I almost can't even comprehend it. I should be able to comprehend it, but I can't comprehend it. Every single one of your men, yeah, they went off and fought in the war. They got blown up. And now we're going to import 10 million other men from a different country to do the work in the country. It's like, unbelievable, unbelievable by any way you look at it. And so, the only way to save Ukraine is to give it to Russia. It's the only way to save the country because they're doing this all over, and unfortunately, they're doing it deliberately because it creates all the problems, creates all the issues. All the good Indians understand this. All the ones who came, who left India, really for a better life, totally in good faith, they all understand this stuff. A lot of them understand the scammer, nepotistic culture that comes from there, and it's all over. Oh, we need more laborers. You don't need more laborers actually, because you have AI and automation coming in. They're going to put all those people in the country, and then they're not going to have work in a few years. It's going to, it's going to be a mess. But this is the whole thing. So Russia is going to have to win this war. And the question is, how does it end? Right? How does it end? The war seems to me to be getting more and more brutal. It's changed, actually. It's changed since before I went to prison. Because now it's like they send in teams of 2 people. You can't send more than 2 people out. Because if you send more than 2 people out, drones will get them automatically. And even those 2 people, if they try to cross no man's land, if they try to cross from the rear to where there's actually defense to the front lines, that's the most dangerous portion. If they try to cross that area, it's a few miles. That's the most dangerous part. Once they get to the dugout, they're pretty safe. They just stay there. They camp out, but then they rotate out. But that walk across like the intermediary area to the front, they're under constant attack by drones. You can't send more than 2 people. You can't do assaults of more than 2 people. Like a fire team, which is the smallest number in the US military for like an attack unit, you can't use a fire team. A fire team is too big. It's too easy of a target. So people go out in teams typically of 2, sometimes even 1. You have assaults of 1 person because you can't have more than 1 person or they gain, and these individuals have to then be totally skilled. They have to know like medical stuff. They have to know how to navigate. It's like every soldier has to become like a special forces soldier to get through this area, and they get picked off. You don't get to your dugout by night. They have thermals on you. You can't find it. You're dead. It's gotten a lot more horrifying even. Like, you thought, like, oh, it's World War I with drones. Like, now it's basically just, like, it's just drones. Like, no man's land's everywhere. Drones see everything. They either hit you or they find you, and there's an artillery strike. So, I hope the war ends. I hope the war ends. But, are they gonna let it happen? It's very interesting that this new summit's coming after the end of the Israel-Gaza war, right? I expect more provocations. I absolutely do. But the stage is getting set for more and more things to happen. So let's talk a little bit about, so we started off with Comey getting arrested. Then we had Letitia James, and now we have Bolton. Who's next? Well, it seems like it's going to be Adam Schiff. So this stuff is like, it's going down the ranks. Now, here's the only caveat I'm going to say. This is my only caveat, okay? My only caveat is that I don't think that we are going to get everything that we want with the justice system. And we've seen this, right? Somebody attacks ICE agents. Can't even get a grand jury indictment. We have jury nullification in blue cities. I went through this firsthand. There was no objectivity because you are dealing with shit lib jurors, and shit libs do not care about justice when it comes to politics. This is the big issue that the right's faced, right? The issue that the right has faced is that we're all individualists for the most part. We're by disposition more individualist. And so we have independent thoughts and we don't work together. The left is a hive mind. They're a hive mind. Even though they devour each other, when it comes to fighting against anything that's stable and good, they will always work together. They don't care about it. Dostoevsky understood this, right? When you're dealing with communists will devour each other once they've taken over, absolutely. But in the process of they will always unite against the right. They'll always do it. But the right won't unite against the left. This happened in the Spanish Civil War. During the Republic, right? In the early 1930s, it was split into two parts. You had one part of the right that said basically, I guess you could call them fascist, right? They're basically like the left is they don't care about these institutions. They're not operating in good faith, right? I always talk about good faith in dating because it's the parallels. I always want to emphasize that. I'm about the good faith in the dating relationship world because I'm about good faith with politics and society. And once you see good faith versus bad faith, it changes everything. A lot of conservatives still don't get this. You see this with Christians when it comes to their marriages. They don't understand their wife is a fucking cunt and she's working in bad faith. There's a difference between a woman and you having a misunderstanding, miscommunication, and bad faith. You cannot work things out when somebody is working with you against you in bad faith. The loyal opposition are two people who are both aiming at the same goal, but they're different sides of the truth. Bad faith does not like the truth. You can't work with someone like that. They are your enemy. You have to understand that. And you can't apply the same moral code that you would have with somebody who is operating in good faith. You give them grace because their different perspective can help. When someone's operating in bad faith, everything they say is a fucking lie. And they will do everything that they possibly can to destroy what you are doing. That's what you see with the left. When they're in power, it doesn't matter. It's just about exercising power. When they're out of power, they're always appealing to principles. It's just like this stuff that we saw recently, where you had this group chat where some like young right-wing guys who were talking and they were making jokes about like Jews and Hitler and black people, whatever fucking jokes they were making. No one cares. I don't give a fuck. No one gives a fuck. Who actually gets it? When you actually get it, you don't get manipulated by this stuff. I saw this guy, Jonathan Turley, today. What a dumb fuck. Who the fuck is this guy? He was saying like, it's against America's free speech values to not let people in the country who supported the assassination of Charlie Kirk because that's against free speech to ban political speech. Okay, Jonathan, so we should let non-nationals who by the way have no rights under the Constitution because they are not American citizens. We are supposed to let non-nationals, non-Americans, come into our country to kill us because we have free speech, because that's how we defend free speech. Are you the stupidest fucking person in the entire world? But this is what they do. They're not. That's bad faith. I don't think he's a stupid person. He's a manipulative piece of shit. And that's what you're dealing with the left. But the right doesn't always understand that. They don't always understand it. There was half of the right before the Spanish Civil War said, no, we're going to work through the process. Because, we're in parliament together. We're trying to work for this. Half the right was like, they're not working in good faith, man. They're not working in good faith. But they had to let it ride out. And eventually, the left operated in such bad faith that then the right responded finally. They unified. And that was the Spanish Civil War. But that's all fascism is. Fascism is different in every country because all fascism is an immune response to communism of a society that is trying to survive against this rot. That's all it is. You're a Nazi. Well, if I'm a Nazi, it's only because you're a fucking communist. That's the response. Nobody wants to be a Nazi. Whatever that means. Does it mean having a high trust society? I mean, you saw Joy Reid on The View the other day, right? Joy Reid on The View. Yeah, they support fascist policies like every family being able to own a home and, families staying together and having. She's saying like all this stuff. It's like, wait a minute. That's fascism? Well, okay. Look, I love America and I love the Constitution. The big question for Trump is, can Trump save the republic? That's the big question. America is saved. I want you guys to understand this. America is saved. America is not going to die. Americans aren't going to die. White people aren't going to die. We're not. There's a spirit of resilience that's building up. There's an immune response. The boomers are weak-willed, but the boomers are weak and old, and they're losing their cultural power. We're going to survive. The question is just, will the republic survive? And whether the republic survives depends on whether Trump can solve problems that the Constitution, which was built for good faith people to interact with each other, is able to deal with bad faith infiltration. That's the question. The question is whether our system of government will survive. We will survive. There's no question about that. We will absolutely survive. But if the Constitution doesn't have a way of dealing with Somali scammers who came into the country on visa scams, stole hundreds of millions of dollars from the country, sent it overseas, it's like something like over half of the Somalians in Minnesota are on some sort of scam visa. They shouldn't be in the country. If the Constitution can't deal with that, it's going to get dealt with. But if the Constitution can't deal with that, that's the problem that we face in the future. I hope that Trump can deal with it. But one of the things I mentioned about this jury nullification, why'd I go down this route? I went down this route because if you are trying to get indictments for people like Adam Schiff, and you can't get in, first off, the juries are resistant to it, depending on the district you get, right? But then you have the judges. Do the judges essentially nullify it? They tried to kill Kavanaugh, right? Supreme Justice Kavanaugh. And the guy got like a 5-year sentence when he should have gotten like 28 years. Okay, I got like a 5-year sentence for walking into a fucking building, let alone actually going and trying to kill a Supreme Court justice. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what it would be like if it had been a liberal? So what do you do in these situations when you have judges, when you have people who basically make it so that your system, they hijack the system because they appeal to principle when they have, oh, you have to follow the rules. I'm in this position. But then when they're in power, they do whatever the fuck they want. So that's not going to fly. That's not going to fly. And the question is, what happens? Q always said, the only way is the military. But they're going to exhaust the other options first. So don't pin your hopes on getting the justice in the Justice Department. We do need to see the indictments because we need to show that they were legit. What these people did was legit. But we may not get justice, and we may have to escalate it to a military matter, and that's the Insurrection Act. When a leftist attacks an ICE guard, an ICE member, right, who's doing his job, literally attacks him, and cannot get a grand jury indictment because it's filled with shit libs, what do? You're dealing with an insurrection, actual insurrection at that point. And then it's the military's turn. And that's why they opposed Hegseth so much, because at the end of the day, it's always going to go back to the military. And we know that. We've always known that. You guys who were here for COVID Cabal Season 1, you knew it. It's always been like this. We always know where it was going to go. But things are going to be great. But this is a fight. It's a slog. And we are going to get through it. But don't expect it to be smooth sailing all the time. That's what I'd say. Let's see my notes here. Does anything else I'm missing? Oh, I got to add this last thing before we go. This is a little icing on the cake. And I think Patton says it right here. Everything has to be done by the book, hence why it is taking so long. The entire corrupt system has to be on display for all to see. The people have to beg for it. before he can do it. They want to make him into the next Hitler, or they want to make him into the next Lincoln, right? And that's why they have this Civil War strategy we've talked about on past episodes. Notice the locations of the states that they are trying to capture. They control the northern, the northeastern, and the western coasts. Definitely effective. Definitely effective. But this is a very important thing right here. This is a very important thing. I actually want to show this other one first before I focus on this. Let me see here. This is it. So this happened a few days ago, a week ago now, yeah. Dominion was sold for scrap because indictments expected soon. So this is a big thing. Dominion voting was sold for like peanuts. Dominion voting that had that it was sold. It was actually sold. And it was sold for peanuts. And so the question is that because indictments are expected on what happened during the voting machines? I think that this is and then the feds just indicted Smartmatic. So I think that we're getting closer, guys. As I've said, keep your eye on February 2026. I think that's going to be the big turning point. Astrologically speaking, that's what it says. You can feel the tension building, but we got to do this the right way. Got to be patient. We're going to do it. We've got this. We've got it. We're going to win. The question is what comes after, and that's something we're going to have to think a lot about in the future, what we're okay with. The world's changing. The world's changing in a lot of ways. Tech's going to be changing. AI is going to be changing this world so much. So get used to change, my friends. What's important is God, family, people, and the truth, as always. And everything else, we have to be prepared to let it go if it doesn't work. Or we have to reestablish it in a way that does work. But you cannot have structures infiltrated by bad faith people, and you cannot give authority to them ultimately if they are infiltrated by bad faith people, because it doesn't matter what they were founded on. The people who run it corrupt it. And this is the nature of history. This is why you had Polybius talked about anacyclosis and the changing of different government structures, right? From tyranny to aristocracy to oligarchy to democracy to mobocracy to monarchy. It's this constant process. And the reason it goes this way is because human nature. The reason it goes this way is because evil always enters. And there's always a response. And the response begets another response. And we are in that period right now. So you always take what was good and you attempt to reestablish it. But when you're in a position in society where you have liberals, and this is documented, right? You have liberals who admit that everything that they vote for is bad for them. That their party votes to let criminals out and that they don't like it, but they still vote for it. What does that say about democracy? What does it say? Maybe we're at the point where the population is not equipped enough to rule themselves. I'm not saying that because I want it. I'm saying it as an observation, and I think we're all starting to see it. A lot of people are simply not equipped to rule themselves, to run a country. We're going to see if Trump can revitalize the country or whether we are just at the next stage of the journey. But I can tell you, we're going to have a hard time competing against countries like Russia and China in the future if they are led by people who have vision and structure, even if there is corruption with it. When we're run by people who have no sovereignty, no ability to vote in not only their own interest but the country's interest. It was never even about like voting for a higher interest. Sometimes it was just about vote for your own self-interest. They can't even do that. That's how fallen it's been. You're not even asking the average American for foresight. You're asking him to vote for something that doesn't kill him, and he can't do that. That's how fucked up communism makes people. It makes them want to vote, and it's a rot. And you can't expect those people to rule things. You can't expect those people. You can't give them any political power at the end of the day. That's where it's going to come. You can't give people like that political power. So, all right, my friends, great show as always. I will see you Monday or Tuesday. I got to figure it out. Love you all. Have a great weekend. Cheers.